let's give it maybe a couple minutes for people to settle in, and then we can get started. I'm sure you have wonderful things prepared for us today, and lots of knowledge as well.
I hope so. We'll see. Yeah, we can wait, so it doesn't matter.
I hope everybody can hear us. I think so. I think it should be fine. Or I would feel somebody would have raised their hands or anything like that. Sultana, I can see you're amongst us as well. Great.
Hi Joe, how are you?
Hi Giovanna, how are you doing?
I'm trying to not to stay my face down until like if you see. Hi.
Hi.
So when we do the recording, Joe and you can be visible to the others. So I think we can start, Nayat. Like I think you're set. You can have those screen shared options whenever there's nothing. I'm here as well. Joe, a member of our staff, will moderate the session. Thank you. I'm looking forward to following it.
Thank you so much, Ivana, and thank you everyone for joining here. It really is a pleasure to introduce everyone to Najet Zammouri, who needs no introduction really, or at least the one that I'm going to do doesn't, it's not deserving of all the accomplishments that you've done. But obviously, you're human rights defender, you're an activist, but also a feminist activist. You're more widely known as the vice president of the Ligue Tunisienne des Droits de l'Homme, which is the Tunisian League of Human Rights, which is a Nobel Prize winning organization, I think, back in 2015. You obviously have been working in the sector for, I think, over 30 years and been fighting on several fronts, including gender equality, freedom, human rights, and justice on intersectional levels as well. So we're very keen to hear from you today and get a bit of your knowledge and what you can pass on to us as well. So I'll let you take over and start with your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you so much for the introduction. So distinguished colleagues, activists, and fellow defenders of human rights. It's both an honor and a duty for me to speak today on a topic that remains one of the most pressing human rights issues of our time, which is the elimination of female genital mutilation, FGM, and child marriage. Two harmful practices that continue to affect millions of girls around the world, often with irreversible consequences. Before diving into today's presentation, allow me to briefly introduce myself and the approach I bring. So as you said, my name is Najet Zammouri. My first name is Najet. I am a feminist, yes, right, activist and long-time human rights defender based in Tunisia. I have spent decades working directly with marginalized communities, leading advocacy campaigns and coordinating efforts between civil society and public institutions. Unlike an academic analysis rooted solely in theory, my intervention today is grounded in what I have witnessed on the ground in refugee camps, rural villages, and grassroots movements. I will speak from experience, from real stories, and from the front lines of feminist resistance. I invite you to approach this presentation not only as an exchange of knowledge, but also as a call to action, to see, to listen, and to act in solidarity with the girls and women whose rights and futures are at stake. Let me begin by stating the obvious, but often ignored, unfortunately, truth. FGM and child marriage are not cultural rites of passage. They are violations of the rights of the child. They strip girls of their agency, compromise their health, and perpetuate cycles of gender-based violence and poverty. But before addressing these issues from various perspectives, I invite you first to watch this video, which highlights the challenge related to the practice of female genital mutilation, FGM. The video was produced and published by UNICEF. It's being shared here solely for educational and awareness-raising purposes in line with fair use principles. For full credit goes to UNICEF, of course. So here is the video.
My grandmother told me that it's just, that's a lump of flesh, which is known as haram ki boti. And you're not supposed to have that in view.
Najet, maybe can you share your screen? I'm not sure if participant can see the video.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, here you go. Thank you very much.
I was 7 years old. One day when my grandmother came to my home and she asked me to join her in a huge gathering, and she told me that there would be a lot of children like me and I could befriend them and I would play with them. So I was very excited, When I climbed to the first floor, I saw there was no one. So just a lady. So we sat for a while. We sat for like an hour. And then another lady came and she took us to upstairs. There was one small room. It was so small, it was dark, it was messy. I still remember I was sitting on the bed and the other lady, she was, I don't know, she was taking a rough cloth and a blade and from the drawer. I was too young to actually, not to trust my grandmother. Next thing happened that gave me a shock. They actually made me lie down and then they held my hands and legs, and the other lady, she spread my legs and then she pulled down the underwear and then she grabbed that blade and cut something between my legs. I was rebelling at that time, was screaming that what is happening to me. That pain was intolerable, seriously. Yeah, I still feel that. I was still crying. I was still crying at that time. They were all laughing and congratulating each other that now she is being circumcised.
Tradition is it's a practice that has come in from Africa, because there were the missionaries who came in from Egypt and Yemen into India, and they came into Gujarat, and that's where they started converting the traders into Bohras. Bohras were trading communities, so men used to go out for work. They used to be away from home for a long period of time, so that the wife or the woman in the house, she's faithful, remains faithful. So her sexual urges are curbed. My grandmother, this particular day, she told me, we're going to Vendi Bazaar. We're taken to this building, a most dilapidated, nondescript building. And in this building, I see, I've been taken to a second floor house, which is a very small, dingy place. She makes us sit for a while, and then after a little bit of conversation, she kind of, says, pull your trousers down. And I am just wondering what is happening. Before one could even think and realize, there is somebody holding your legs and somebody holding your hands, and there is this lady on you kind of thing. And the act happens. Today, when I sometimes go through that, I do feel the trauma and the pain that I experienced that day. I remember that house, and that lady. Some thing about her face, and then I was asked to lie down, and the story is very similar. It definitely physically and psychologically impacts you, and it is there in your memory. You cannot erase that. It's a sexual violence in a form, one form of sexual violence, and a child has a right to live a healthy life, which you're taking it away from her by doing this. And there have been repercussions. People have been having problems post this. There have been bleeding and a lot of other infections and things like that because it was done in a crude way. But even if it's not done in a crude way today, people will justify saying that it's done very hygienically in hospitals and under whatever conditions. But that does not justify a child's rights. You're taking away a child's rights, you know.
I blamed my mother. I don't know why. I did not blame my grandmother because I trusted my mother more than my grandmother. For me, I do not believe in khatna because my sexuality do not need any moderation.
Yeah, indeed, it's very moving, and I'm truly sorry. But it's the reality. You know, culturally, the roots of these practices are deep and complex. And FGM is often tied to beliefs around virginity, marriage ability, and family honor. Even in some communities, it's seen as a religious obligation, even though no major religion mandates it. Child marriage, similarly, is often considered a way to protect a girl's chastity. You will see that in the second part of the presentation. So it reduces the family's financial burden or even settle debts of disputes. These practices are passed from generation to generation, not out of malice, but out of fear, misinformation, and social pressure. This is precisely why we must approach a change not just through the law, but through education, dialogue, and community empowerment. So now let's see together the impact of girls' rights and lives. So I will share with you. I hope I'm sharing. Do you see the PowerPoint in the screen?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, so sorry, I will just.
No problem. In terms of participants, please feel free to add some questions in the chat. We will obviously touch upon them in a Q&A session after the presentation, and we're all very interested in hearing what everyone has to say, share experiences and questions, and just discuss that, all of us.
So let me, just because the video is still working. I don't know if you see the PowerPoint. No,
not yet. But if you share your screen again the same way.
Yeah, I think it's, I have to. Okay, I think I got it now. Is it okay now?
Yes, now
Yes.
it's starting to share. Yes, we can see it. So if you
Okay.
do full screen mode.
Yeah. So
exactly, amazing, thank you.
It's okay, right?
Perfect.
So we'll see the impact on girls' rights and lives, as I told you at the end of the video. So what is FGM? It is the female genital mutilation refers to all procedures involving involve a partial or total removal of the external female genitalia or other injury to the female genital organs for non-medical reasons. It is internationally recognized as a violation of human rights, particularly the rights of women and girls. So the types of FGM, according to the World Health Organization classification, there is the type 1, which is clitoridectomy, which is a partial or total removal of the clitoris and or the prepuce. The type 2 is the excision, a partial or total removal of the clitoris and the labia minora with or without excision of the labia majora. Sorry for the pronunciation of some scientific and medical words. The type 3 is infibulation, which is narrowing of the vaginal opening by creating a covering seal with or without removal of the clitoris. The type 4 is other harmful procedures, includes breaking, piercing, incising, scraping, or cauterizing the genital area. So where is the FGM practice? It is most common in parts of Africa, Somalia, for example, Sudan, Egypt, Mali, Guinea, etc. The Middle East, for instance, Iraq, Yemen, parts of Iran. Asia, some communities in Indonesia, Malaysia, and India, or even the diaspora communities in Europe, North America, and Australia. It is not confined to the countries where it is originated. Due to migration, it continues within the diaspora communities in Europe, example in the United Kingdom, France, Germany, Sweden, North Africa, especially in the United States and Canada, and Australia. In these settings, FGM may be performed secretly because, of course, it's not allowed by law. So secretly during visits to the country of origin, which is called vacation cuttings, or within the host country itself, despite strong legal prohibitions. Efforts to combat FGM in these contexts focus on awareness raising, of course, protection services, and collaboration with affected communities to prevent the practice. Why is FGM performed? Yeah, that's why exactly. So it is deeply rooted in cultural, religious, and social norms, including, first of all, beliefs about purity, modesty, and aesthetics, or social acceptance and marriageability. Perceived religious obligations through not supported by any major religions. I insist, and I already said that. It is not supported by any major religion. Gender or gender inequality and attempts to control women's sexuality. When I say that it is because we say that Islam, of course, encourages this kind of practices. FGM is not required by any religion, Islam or Christianity, or it is sometimes falsely believed to be a religious duty, which is not right. In some Muslim, Christian, and animist communities, FGM is mistakenly linked to religious identity or piety. However, not holy scriptures, including the Quran or the Bible, mandate the practice. So religious leaders play a key role here, and we'll see that afterwards, in challenging these misconceptions and promoting alternative rites of passage that are respectful of both tradition and human rights. This is the point that I wanted to raise. So health consequences of FGM. Immediately, of course, severe pain, as the child or the girl told already that. Excessive bleeding, swelling and infections, difficulty urinating, shock, or even death in some circumstances. It depends on the way we do it. I just here give you the example. In 2013, Suhair al-Batta, a 13-year-old girl from a village in northern Egypt, died as a result of FGM. The procedure was carried out by a doctor in a private clinic at the request of her father. Shortly after undergoing the operation, Suhair went into anaphylactic shock due to the anesthetic used during the procedure. So she died before she could receive proper medical attention. The long-term consequences, we have chronic pain, infections, example, urinary or reproductive tract. And here I'm speaking about the sexual rights of the girls and women. It's another topic which we need to deepen also. It's the sexual rights. So complications during a childbirth, psychological trauma, the depression, etc., and sexual dysfunction. Health consequences on FGM, these are not hypothetical stories, because over 200 million women and girls have undergone FGM, according to the World Health Organization. So legal and global responses. Of course, there are international frameworks. Here I can quote the UN Convention of the Rights of the Child, CEDAW, Convention of the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, you know already that. Maputo Protocol, it's a regional convention. Sustainable Development Goal 5.3, eliminate, I quote, eliminate all harmful practices, including FGM, by 2030. Here we are speaking about the goals of 2013 of the Sustainable Development Goal. Many countries now have laws criminalizing FGM, although enforcement varies. What are the efforts to end FGM? First of all, there are some community engagements and education. I can here cite, for example, Senegal. There are many community engagement in Senegal, for instance, or in other countries. Alternative rites of passage, support for survivors, of course, support, health support, legal aid, etc. Involvement of men also should be involved. Religious leaders also can play a very important role here, and youth, of course. And international campaigns, example, UNFPA, UNICEF joint program on the elimination of FGM. FGM is a human rights violation. I said already that in the introduction. It's not a culture, it's not a religion practice, it's not a religious requirement. So ending FGM requires community-driven, culturally sensitive strategies. Education, empowerment, legislation are here essential to the eradication, to eradicate this practice, to eradication efforts. Survivors also need, of course, psychosocial, medical, and legal support. Second, here, the global impact of female genital mutilation and child marriage. The global impact on girls offers this chart offers a simplified visual. I wanted to be very simple, you know, so it is a simplified visual representation of the global impact of female genital mutilation and child marriage. So we have, as I told you, 200 million women and girls have undergone FGM. 12 million girls are married each year before the age of 18, according to UNICEF. An estimated 48 million girls are not married before 18, shown here to give proportional context. So here, the visualization simplifies complex, overlapping global data for representation purposes. FGM and child marriage often affect different age groups and population. So here the social cost. But beyond the personal tragedies. Beyond the personal tragedies, we can note a loss of education and future opportunities, increased maternal mortality, poor health outcomes, economic dependency, whole communities trapped in poverty and inequality. Promising practices and global efforts, but there is hope and change. It is happening, fortunately. For example, there is some community dialogues works. As of 2025, most African countries have enacted laws banning FGM, either through specific legislation or as part of broader laws on child protection, gender-based violence, or harmful traditional practices. In Senegal, entire communities have publicly declared the abandonment of FGM. Entire communities in Senegal have publicly declared the abandonment through a model of community dialogue and peer education, pioneered by NGOs like Tostan, imams, and traditional leaders. Once defenders of their practice have become advocates for its end. Imam, it's a Muslim leader. I mean, we call it in Islam imam. It is a religious leader. The dialogue is based on community dialogue and peer education, model pioneered by NGOs, etc. And as I told you. In North Africa, in Egypt, Egypt criminalized the FGM in 2008. Penalties were strengthened in 2016. In Sudan, banned in 2020, lately, under Article 141 of the Penal Code. Despite the ban in Sudan, I want to say that implementation has been weak, with enforcement hampered by social security, traditional beliefs still there, and resistance from some community and religious leaders. Conflict and displacement, you know, with the war in Sudan now, particularly since the 2023, have further weakened governance and enforcement, putting, still speaking about Sudan, so putting displaced girls at heightened risk and potentially expanding the practice beyond Sudan's borders. Libya, Algeria, and Tunisia, the FGM is rare and no specific laws really exist, but general laws on bodily harm may apply. Tunisia publicly, for example, condemns the practice. And Burkina Faso, one of the earliest to criminalize FGM. Côte d'Ivoire, Ghana, Guinea, Mali, it's very limited. Mauritania, Nigeria, Senegal, Sierra Leone, Togo most have bans, but enforcement varies from a country to another. In Sierra Leone passed a national FGM ban in 2024 after years of resistance by traditional secret societies. In Mali, they passed its first, their first national anti-FGM law in 2023 after years and years of advocacy pressure. In East Africa, Ethiopia, Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, Djibouti, Eritrea all criminalized FGM. And Kenya has one of the strongest anti-FGM frameworks. Prohibition of FGM Act, it was in 2011. In Somalia, no national law banning FGM, though some regions like Puntland have adopted local bans. I'm still apologize for the pronunciation of some word. In Central African Republic, FGM here is illegal since 1966, with stronger laws in 1996 and 2006, plus the criminalization on a 2010 penal code. However, in Central Africa, there is little enforcement or recorded prosecutions. Chad, for example, 2002 reproductive health laws bans FGM, but enforcement mechanism remained pending for years. The implementing decree passed in 2018, yet still awaits for enforcement. Cameroon, FGM is practiced in some communities, not always explicitly criminalized, but may fall under broader harm-related laws. South Africa, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Namibia, Mozambique, Angola, either FGM is banned or extremely rare and socially condemned. Yeah, so the important notes here. Legal bans alone are not enough. FGM often continues in secrecy, even where it is criminalized by law. Enforcement, education, and cultural transformation are critical for real change. So many countries partner with UNFPA, UNICEF, and local women's rights groups to implement national action plans. In Tunisia, sorry, I go back. So I said in Tunisia, where I come from, of course. So in Tunisia, feminist organizations, we say that Tunisia, it is in the front line of Arab world in in women's rights, which is not false, you know. So because feminist organizations are very strong and have worked hand in hand with policymakers to integrate gender-based violence education into school curricula and to raise awareness in rural regions where marriage is still informally practiced. We will say that, we'll see that in the second part. So this is for the first page about the FGM. So although I would like to say that although many countries have enacted laws banning female genital mutilation, FGM, including strong regional commands like the Maputo Protocol, the practice persists in many communities due to deeply rooted cultural norms, lack of awareness, weak law enforcement, and social pressure. Legal prohibition alone is often insufficient. Meaningful change requires a comprehensive approach that combines legislation with education, community engagement, support for survivors, and the involvement of traditional and religious leaders. Only through sustained grassroots and institutional efforts can these laws be effectively respected and FGM truly eradicated. So now, like FGM, child marriage also is another harmful practice rooted in gender inequality and social norms, which continues unfortunately to violate the rights of girls across many of the same regions. Now, the second part is about the challenging patriarchy and protecting rights, the struggle against child marriage in the MENA region. I focus in the MENA region, as I told you from the beginning of the international. Now, I'd like to start also with the powerful, I think, and disturbing fact. Every 2 seconds, somewhere in the world, a girl is married off before the age of 18. This is also not simply cultural practice, it is a violation of human rights. It is a form of gender-based violence that reflects deep-rooted patriarchal systems designed to control girls' bodies, choices, and futures. So, in today's session, we will, in the second part of the session, we will explore child marriage through a feminist lens. We will examine the driving forces behind this practice, including poverty, gender inequality, displacement, and conflict, with a special focus on the Middle East and North Africa region. We will also highlight the powerful grassroots resistance led by feminist activists and communities who are challenging this injustice and building alternatives. To truly understand the impact of child marriage, it is important to listen to the voices of those directly affected. Let me now share with you the testimony of a young woman who experienced this reality firsthand.
And whilst you're getting this up, I just also wanted to say thank you for those who asked questions. Please continue to do so. I'm reading them and they are so interesting. So please do not hesitate to ask more as we go as well, and we can talk about them in our Q&A next.
I don't know if you see the video now. Is it okay?
Not yet. It is loading, but we can see your screen.
Yeah, so you see it now.
Yeah, we see your screen, not the video
so
yet.
Let me go from the beginning, because before playing the video, I want to say that the video titled "The 9-year-old Child Forced into Marriage in Iraq." This video is shared here also for educational and awareness raising purposes only, with full respect to original creators and copyright holders. All rights, of course, remain with the original source. Let's see together the testimony of an Iraq woman.
كل شيء صمم من قبل الآخرين. صمموا لي حياتي، صمموا لي غرفتي، صمموا لي ملابسي، صمموا لي عدد الأطفال اللي
We can't see the video just yet.
أطفالي.
It's still on your white screen.
Sorry?
We can't see I can't see the video. If you can click on video view, we can only see your file currently. We can hear, but we don't have the visual just yet.
Oh, sorry, I'm really...
Don't worry at all.
Yeah, okay. And now?
Still not, but
Still not, okay.
Oh, here you go now.
Okay,
Yes.
so I
Amazing.
go from the beginning. I'm really sorry for...
No problem at all.
كل شيء صمم من قبل الآخرين. صمموا لي حياتي، صمموا لي غرفتي، صمموا لي ملابسي، صمموا لي عدد الأطفال اللي أنا لازم يكونون أطفالي.
On her 9th birthday, Nadia's family decided she was old enough to be married to a man aged 28. She agreed to share her story with us, but asked us to disguise her identity.
إن جتي أمي كانت تقول لي أنتي باكر عرست. أي وقت ما تزوجت اللي أعرفه بالحياة الزوجية بداخل الغرفة إنه الزوج يبوس وينام. أول ما دخلنا الغرفة إجا لزم إيدي وكان يقول لي اسمعي أنت صرتي زوجتي، فإحنا لازم نصلي ركعتين حتى نبقى دائما للأبد سوا. وما أريد أقول الباقي بعد. بس يعني الموقف اللي صار ما بيه ذرة إنسانية، يعني قمة الوحشية. وكم مرة قلت لا وما انسمعت. إلا أني بوقتها ما كنت بالغة.
Nadia's wedding was held just after the First Gulf War. Some 30 years on, despite promises of reform and reconstruction, the practice is still happening. Today, parts of Baghdad are booming, with glitzy shopping centres marketing Western products. In theory, women here are protected by what was once considered some of the most progressive laws in the Arab world. And yet, since the coalition invasion, the number of child marriages has risen.
زواج القاصرات يشكل حاليا نسبة تصل إلى أكثر من 5 حالات الزواج.
Hannah Edway is a prominent activist who says after decades of conflict, state institutions have been left so weakened that tribal traditions are resurfacing.
نتيجة حالات الفقر، نتيجة حالات النزوح والتهجير اللي يضطرون الكثير من العوائل يتخلصون من بناتهم الصغيرات على أساس الحماية للبنت. هذا الموضوع اليوم يحدث وانتشر ليس أنا أقول ليس فقط في المناطق الريفية وإنما حتى في مراكز المدن.
And the practice is also happening in both Sunni and Shia communities.
السلام عليكم شباب.
The Al Faya Girls' School is inside the city, the largest Shia neighborhood in Baghdad, and historically the most politically unstable. A team of community police officers have arrived at the school to deliver an unusual lesson.
احنا اليوم قضيتنا اللي هي قضيه اساسيه تشهد بالمجتمع العراقي هي زواج خارج المحاكم وزواج بغض الطلاق. ماده 10 من الفقره الخامسه تقول لا، قانون الاحوال الشخصيه العراقي يحبس الزوج عنده عقد المحكمه الخارجي، بس هاي قاصر خارج المحكمه مده لا تقل عن 6 اشهر ولا تزيد عن سنه مع غرامه ماليه. زين.
But the girls are having none of it. They challenge the officer on why having a law isn't enough.
حتى القانون ما جاي يطبق.
موجود، بس احنا شو وقت نلتجئ لما نصير المشاكل؟
اذا ليش هو يعقد؟
موجود.
And it's the power of those religious clerics that many blame for the practice. We showed Nadia's story to Sheikh Mustafa and asked him to clarify the religious position on marrying minors.
ما لم تبلغ البنت الحلم لا يصح تزويجها. الموضوع لا يرتبط بالعمر بقدر ما أننا نربط الموضوع بالكفاءة فالحاكم وبلوغ البنت، ومتى ما كانت مؤهلة للزواج كفؤ للزوج آنذاك تتزوج.
Far from the promise of progress, campaigners say women's rights are steadily being eroded. Just 2 years ago, the government tried to introduce a bill that would have lowered the legal marriage age from 18 to 9. Although it was defeated, it may be reintroduced.
المشهد ونقول عندها حق بالعمل، عندها حق في المشاركة في الحياة، عندها حق الكرامة، عندها حق.
Activist Jumana Mumtaz has launched a campaign calling for greater protection for women's rights.
المرأة ما تعرف حقوقها، ما تعرف حقها بالمجتمع، ما تعرف إنه القانون يمكن يكون يوقف وياها، أكو منظمات توقف وياها، بس بنفس الوقت أكو شيء اجتماعي متفق عليه إنه عيب نحكي بهذه المشاكل وعيب نتحدث عن مشاكلنا الحساسة. هي تميل للصمت، تسكت، بالنتيجة تتأذى وتتألم أكثر.
By the time Nadia was 13, she had 2 children. Many years later, she finally managed to escape her marriage and is now settled in England. She's horrified that the practice is still happening to girls in Iraq today and wanted to speak out against it.
يعني أنا أشوف يعني أي طفلة بعمر اللي أنا تزوجت فيه أتذكر إنه أنا لمست هنا وأنا هنا اغتصبت وأنا هنا شعري انقص، وأنا ما أتمنى لأي بنية تمر بهذا الألم.
يعني مثلا يقدموا انه يا مثلا ترى فكره ما شنو الحل؟
حلان لاغر. أولاً توعية الأهل، توعية البنت هي بالأساس. الحل الثاني إجبار الشيوخ على منع هذه الحالة كلياً. احنا نتمنى هاي الظاهرة تنتهي بأسرع وقت، لأن استنزفت المجتمع واستنزفتنا كبنات، واحنا تواجهنا شخصياً، لأنه هذا الشيء له علاقة بينا كبنات. محاربة حرية ومحاربة رأي ويأثر على مجتمعنا ويؤدي إلى تراجع. احنا نتمنى تطبيق القانون بأسرع وقت حتى نبني مجتمع أفضل، وإنه تكون أقل شيء للبنية حرية رأي بخصوص الزواج.
So thank you. Yeah, so yeah, child marriage. I guess maybe some of the fellows here come also from these regions. So we know that child marriage remains a pressing human rights violations affecting millions of girls globally, including in the Middle East, North Africa. From a feminist perspective, child marriage is not merely a cultural practice. I think I repeated that twice or 3 times, but a manifestation of a structural gender inequality and a patriarchal control over girls' bodies and lives. It's a control defined as a formal or informal union where one of both parties are under the age of 18. This is the definition of the child marriage. It is internationally recognized as a violation of children's rights and a form of gender-based violence. While its global prevalence has declined in recent decades, the practice remains deeply rooted in many regions, including in MENA region, where entrenched gender norms, poverty, and conflicts, these issues are all raised in the video. So they intersect to sustain its persistence. In Tunisia, a country, as I told you, often celebrated for its progressive legal framework on women's rights, the existence of child marriage is frequently underestimated or dismissed. Yet, cases continue to occur, particularly among marginalized rural populations and refugee communities. So, the legal now and social context in Tunisia and the MENA region, Tunisia has legally set the minimum age of marriage at 18, and its laws require the consent of both parties. However, exceptions and loopholes have historically allowed judicial authorization of underage marriages. While legal reforms have closed some of these gaps, implementation remains unconscious, particularly in rural areas, poor people. In neighboring countries such as Egypt, Morocco, and Yemen, the situation is more complex. In many cases, religious or customary law coexist with civil law, creating legal ambiguity and allowing child marriage to continue with tacit or explicit approval. According to UNICEF, nearly 1 in 5 girls in the MENA region are married before the age of 18, and the numbers are higher in contexts affected by conflicts or displacement, example in Sudan, etc. This persistence cannot be explained solely by poverty or lack of education. Rather, it must be understood in the broader framework of gender power relations and the desire to control female sexuality, mobility, and autonomy. Yet, legally, progress has been made. We should say that. As of 2025, more than 50 countries have enacted specific legislation banning child marriage and FGM also in over 100 countries, with laws setting the minimum age of marriage at 18. Yet in many these countries, exceptions still exist, such as parental consent or customary law that render such protections toothless. In Tunisia, where I come from, the legal age of marriage is 18, right? Yet rural girls are still sometimes married informally at much younger ages under religious or customary arrangements that escape legal scrutiny. Let's deepen this this issue. I don't know if
we can see it.
Not yet. Okay.
No, we can.
Yeah. Here we are. Is it okay?
Yeah, great.
Great. Okay. So our second topic, ending child marriage, a feminist imperative, a call to dismantle systemic oppression and protection girls' rights. Not let me just drop this title so I can see with you. Okay. So it's not a single issue struggle. Ending child marriage is not single issue struggle. It's not a private problem. It is a part of a broader feminist agenda that seeks to dismantle systems of oppression and inequality. Because early marriage is used as a form of social control in times of crisis. In refugee settings, families may resort to marrying off daughters at a young age to protect them from sexual violence. I quote, of course, I mean between brackets, to protect, of course, to protect, between brackets, from sexual violence or economic leadership. So child marriage intersects with gender inequality, poverty, patriarchy, discrimination. I mean that wherever we find the practice of child marriage, we find all these issues together. They go together. The consequences of child marriage. First of all, the health, of course. Early pregnancy increases maternal and infant mortality. Education, because most married girls drop out of school. Violence, why violence? Because higher risk of domestic violence and sexual abuse. In reality, this form of protection often exposes them to new forms of abuse, including domestic violence, forced pregnancies, and limited access to education and health services. We can also, when we speak about violence, we can also speak about domestic rapes or rapes. They are rapes. The poverty, child brides and their families are often trapped in cycles of poverty. Loss of autonomy because girls lose decision-making power over their own lives. Beyond legislative reform, what is needed? Do we need legal reforms or deep social transformation? Do we need now cultural shifts and power redistribution? Ending child marriage requires much more than legal reform. It demands a deep and sustained social transformation. While laws prohibiting the practice are essential, they must be backed by robust enforcement and community awareness. The root causes gender inequality, poverty, and harmful traditions must be addressed through what? Through cultural shifts that challenge patriarchal norms and redefine the values of girls in society. Empowering girls through education, access to health services and economic opportunities is vital, is essential, as is engaging families, religious leaders, and communities in driving change. Ultimately, ending child marriage means redistributing power, dismantling systemic discrimination, and fostering a collective commitment to uphold the rights and dignity of every girl. So we need all this. This is what we call intersectional approach. What do we mean by intersectional approach? Policies, for example, must be intersectional, addressing the needs of girls in poverty, displaced girls and refugees, girls with disabilities, girls facing multiple forms of discrimination. the key actions to end child marriage. The actions include enforcing existing already, first of all, enforcing the existing laws and closing legal loopholes. Investing in education and health services for girls, engaging communities and religious leaders to shift harmful, harmful norms, protecting and supporting feminist organizations and girl-led initiatives. Some of these key actions are already raised by the girls in the school in the former video. The heart of the struggle, the fight against child marriage is a fight for what? It is a fight for bodily autonomy, dignity, and justice. Girls are not victims. They are rights holders. I mean, they are not only victims, because they are already victims, but they are not only victims, they are right holders, change makers, and full citizens. From a feminist standpoint, child marriage is a deeply political issue also. It reflects and reinforces patriarchal norms that devalue girls' autonomy and position them as bearers of family honor. These norms dictate that a girl's primary value lies on her role as a wife and mother, often before she has even completed her schooling or reached psychological maturity. The global overview, 12 million girls married before 18 each year, according to UNICEF. One in 5 girls globally is a child bride. Over 650 million women and girls alive today were married before their 18th birthday. 1 in 5 women aged between 20 and 24 globally were married as children. Incurred trends continue. More than 120 million girls were married before age 18 by 2030. Child marriage rates are declining, but not fast enough to meet the global targets of the sustainable global sustainable goals in 2030. I mean, the regional statistics, of course, these are some regional statistics in sub-Saharan Africa. I mean, in the sub-Saharan Africa is the highest in the world, in Latin America, for example, and Caribbean, 21%. In India, for example, it is on the bottom of the slide. 23%. It was 47% in 25. There is a rapid progress due to education and legal reform. Here I show you a 14-year girl sits with her 4-month-old baby in a village. It is January 21, 2013. The girl married her husband when she was 11 and he was 13. The image was captured by Danish Siddiqui, a Reuters photojournalist who documented the case of Krishna. Sorry. I just want to go to in the global scope, when we want to speak, I want you just to see deeply this child in front of you, while I will explain you something. With over 650 million women and girls affected, child marriage is widespread global human rights violations. I mean, here I'm speaking about the statistic, of course. The fact that 1 in 5 women aged between 20 and 24 were married before age 18 shows that the problem is not only historical but ongoing. The project figure of 120 million new child brides by 2030 reveals that current efforts are insufficient, and without accelerated action, global goals will not be met. When I spoke in the statistic about the regional disparities, when in sub-Saharan Africa, now you saw that it is the highest rates of child marriage, 37%, I think. It is reflecting both deep-rooted cultural practices and limited access to education and legal protection. In South Africa, while still high, 30%, has been notable progress, especially in India, where rates halved from 47% to 23% in 2 decades. This shows that policy reform, education, and awareness campaigns can work. We should have a political will to change things. Latin America, MENA region, and East Asia show lower prevalence, but progress is slower, possibly due to weaker enforcement, social taboos, or lack of data visibility. In conflict-affected regions like Yemen or South Sudan, child marriage is exacerbated by insecurity and displacement, used as a survival strategy by families.
Najet, thank you so much. I don't mean to cut you off, just conscious that we should fairly soon move on to questions. So please, everyone, just keep on sending your questions so we can touch upon them in just a couple of minutes. Najet, back to you. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Najet. Is that the end of your presentation?
Yeah, just I want to conclude that we should conclude by saying that, you know, these 2 issues, of course, are still there, especially in MENA region. And I want to thank you, first of all, for your attention and your commitment. And I want to say maybe that together we can build a world where every girl is free to choose, to dream, and to lead. So let us continue this fight, not only with words, but with action. And thank you.
Thank you so much, Najet. Really appreciate it. And obviously appreciate this very hopeful kind of conclusion to your presentations, very informative presentations. I personally learned a lot, and I can see with the questions as well that everybody is very keen, very interested, and just has, you know, very curious about the topics that you mentioned. Maybe so looking at the questions that we have here in the Q&A, we have someone who mentioned, going back to the FGM, who says, I know that sometimes in Europe, gynecologists do suit the opening of the vagina narrower after birth, for example, for women, which is a practice that they would do justify as usually for men's comfort, and sometimes without the women's mother's consent. So would that be considered as FGM or not, or specifically in fibrillation?
Yeah, so for the first question, without the mother's consent, or even without telling her sometimes, would you say this constitutes FGM, special inflammation? Yes, I think that, of course, the practice here that you are describing can indeed constitute a form of female genital mutilation, particularly when it is, I'm not here speaking about, I already told that as a medical expert, as I am a feminist. So my answer would be, of course, coming from a feminist and an activist. So I see it as FGM, particularly when it is performed without the woman's informed consent, and especially when it involves non-medically necessary alteration of the vagina or vulva for reasons not related to the women's health, such as enhancing, male sexual pressure. Yeah, non-consensual surgical narrowing of the vaginal opening post-birth for male comfort, even in a hospital in Europe, can constitute FGM, or at the very least, a gender-based medical violence and a human rights violation. There are sexual rights also. Don't forget that we speak about sexual rights also. So it may not be a textbook case of type 3 infabulation, but it certainly fits with the broader spectrum of FGM as defined by WHO and the UN human rights framework.
Great, thank you so much, Najet, and I hope that answers the question. On my end, it definitely helps to understand as well. Sarah says, how do you navigate the fine line between legitimately criticizing harmful cultural practices, such as obviously child marriage and FGM, while also avoiding the imposition of Western norms or values into these topics, which I think is a really interesting question. So very much thank you to you, Sarah, for this. And how, as activists, policymakers can sort of change violations of human rights without really prescribing this Western model of modernity and one size fits all.
Yeah, indeed, it's a really interesting and a hard question. It's important and nuanced question, especially for activists working in post-colonial or global South context, like I do, for example. Challenging harmful practices like FGM or child marriage without falling into cultural imperialism requires culture humility, feminist solidarity, and human rights-based community-led approach. Maybe I don't have really a solution right now, but in my point of view, there are some key principles for navigating this balance. First of all, center universal human rights, not Western superiority. The right to bodily autonomy, safety, education, and freedom from violence are not Western violence. They are universal human rights. Affirmed in global instruments like CEDAW, Maputo Protocol. Frame your advocacy around these rights, not around matters of civilization, between brackets, or modernity between brackets. Also, second key, amplify local voices and leadership. By supporting and elevating the work of local feminist activists, survivors, grassroots organizations who are already challenging these norms from within the culture. So because when local women lead the struggle, the work is not seen as an outside imposition, but as internal transformation. I still want to give you an example from Sudan and Somalia. Laws in these two countries are banning FGM. But these two countries often championed by local women's groups. We shouldn't forget that local women's groups and health profession did a lot to eradicate this issue. We should also contextualize without excusing. What does it mean? I'm sorry for the pronunciation, but I will explain and develop. For example, understanding the social, economic, and historical context of harmful practices is crucial. But this is not the same as justifying them. For example, child marriage may be rooted in poverty, insecurity, or the absence of education for girls. These drivers must be addressed systemically. So myself, I want to ask, what are the root causes keeping this practice alive? How can we address them holistically? And we should also avoid stereotyping or cultural reductionism. Don't treat cultures as monoliths. There is always internal debate and resistance. Acknowledge that harmful practices exist in all societies, even if they take different forms. For example, virginity testing, forced sterilizations, Western beauty standards also, don't forget that. So speak about FGM in Africa and cosmetic genital surgery in the West. So in summary, activists and policymakers can navigate this line by promoting rights, not rescue, solidarity, not saviorism, empowerment, not prescription, dialogue, not domination. This is what I see as a key solution to address this problem.
Interesting. Thank you very much, Najet. And I feel like your thoughts were very well organized in a way that I'm able to take notes as well and know exactly, in what order to also capture the main challenges and issues of what you've just presented to us. And maybe on to the next question that Ilvana says, very impactful and important session. Ilvana became aware of the cruelty of FGM at 8 years old when she stumbled across the movie Desert Flower. Her question is, what can bring truly impactful change, and how can one organize a campaign big enough to target these communities that hold on to these practices so strongly? Maybe I have a question also on the back of that is, it's very evident to me that this fighting against FGM has a lot of intersectional aspect to other fights, like fights against patriarchy, social equity, gender equality, and these kind of things. So how can all these topics and campaigns around FGM, so not just FGM, bring also the topic of FGM within its campaigning, and how can we build a strong enough campaign, as Ilvana said, within these communities?
Yeah, very important question. So thank you so much for the question. In 2 words, maybe, alternative rites of passage offer a culturally respectful path to ending FGM by celebrating girls' growth into womanhood without violence. They bridge the gap between human rights principles and community traditions, providing that we can protect health and dignity while honoring culture. Yeah, because the question also touches on a very serious and complex, issue. So I would like also to raise the question. Sorry if I don't answer directly to our question, but I want also to raise the issue of the intersection of forced marriage and martial rape, which I already talked about. It depends on the legal system of the country in question, but in many jurisdictions, the husband can be charged with rape if the marriage was forced and there was non-consensual. So I know I'm sorry if I'm not answering directly to your question, but I think this can, I mean, give some idea about what, I mean, what the question was about.
No, absolutely. And I think it definitely helps. I can see that we have other questions as well coming in that also touch upon this this topic as well. For example, Sagra says, what is meant by providing an alternative rites of passage to end these FGM practices, for example? Any ideas or in your experience around that?
Yeah, so if you don't mind, yeah, I would like to answer. There's so many questions which are very, very important. More than 1 hour, really. I'm very impressed by the quality of the questions. If you don't mind, I would like to answer to Zoe Yates. Why? Yeah, be sure I don't know her in person. No, because she's raising many issues. At the same time, so maybe I can answer to all these questions through her own questions. She's raising,
for sure,
yeah, many.
Absolutely,
right.
Go for it.
I mean, your framing is absolutely, Zoe, correct. And you are touching on a crucial distinction in advocacy, the difference between child-to-child marriage and child-adult marriages, which must be taken with different legal, social, and psychological strategies. When we say child-to-child marriages, are both of them victims? Or the girl is victim and the boy is not? So this is very very important question. Who are the victim here? That's why when I told you that we are not speaking about victims only, but human rights detainers. They have rights. So child marriage, both are victims of harmful norms and family pressure or poverty. Mainly poverty. It reflects community beliefs, gender roles, and lack of education, not criminal intent. Girls are often more vulnerable due to early pregnancy, domestic expectations, school dropouts, legal strategies also. Why? Because here legal strategies advocate for minimum marriage age laws to apply regardless of consent or cultural justification. Use the child protection frameworks rather than criminal law. And push for civil, not criminal intervention. Support services, custody, protection, etc., and encourage birth registration and legal proof of age to prevent informal and documented units. All these are based, of course, on my own work here in Tunisia or in MENA region. So these are what I usually do and I have done in almost 30 years. So there are social strategies also promote comprehensive sexuality education and life skills in schools. Engage both boys and girls in empowerment programs to challenge early gender roles. Work with parents, teachers, religious leaders, and media to shift norms. Also, support access to education and economic opportunities as a protective shield. Train social workers and child protection officers to intervene gently and effectively. There are some messaging tips. Frame it as a child rights and development issue. Avoid framing the boy as an oppressor. Highlight both as children robbed or of childhood, both of them. Focus on intergenerational cycles of poverty and gender inequality. It's not the same thing than child-adult marriages. The core understanding here, this is a crime. Zoe, I want to be direct to your question. So this is a crime, not a marriage. The child cannot give legal or meaningful consent. It is a form of sexual abuse, coercion, and in many cases, pedophilia or trafficking even, yes, especially in refugees communities. Perpetrators often use marriage as a shield against prosecution. What are the legal strategies here? Push for strict criminalization of child-adult marriage. Advocate for a prosecution of adult perpetrators, guardians, and officials. Enforce child protection laws, rape laws, and anti-trafficking frameworks. Lobby for legal reforms to close loopholes such as judicial waivers or religious courts overriding age laws. There are also social strategies. Work with survivors, use media campaigns, collaborate with faith leaders, offer psychological and legal support, etc. The messaging tips: use powerful language. This is not marriage, this is rape. Highlight irreparable harm to the girl's body, psyche, and future. Emphasize international obligations, example CEDAW, and moral urgency. Demand accountability, not negotiation. So, to summarize, always adapt messaging to local context. In conservative environments, using child protection, honor, the words, I put them in between brackets, child protection, honor, future of the family may resonate more initially than feminist, sexual rights, especially in the MENA region where I come from. I don't know where you come from, you know. So may resonate more initially than feminist, sexual rights, you know, framing, but never compromise the core rights of the child. So many things I would like to answer to all these followers. I'm really sorry. There are very, very important questions. I thank you very much for being there and for being attentive to the presentation.
Well, thank you so much, because we won't have the time to answer to all of them. But there's one that actually captured just more my curiosity, is regarding if you, in your personal experience, you faced people who were critical of your work, or you've had difficulties with people, you know, who are trying to actively campaign against your work and everything that you do. And if you can talk about this experience very briefly as a kind of closing argument.
Yeah, so we live in a patriarchal society, of course. So it's not easy at all, of course, to advocate for women's rights, girls' rights, sexual rights, LGBT rights in our society. What I do. I mean, it depends on the, I mean, it depends on the context. I'm open to feedback. I tell them that I appreciate your perspective and we reflect on it. I always welcome constructive criticism as an opportunity to grow. Here, everyone is entitled to their opinion, but I stand by my work and my values. I prefer to focus on solutions rather than personal attacks. That's what I do. Otherwise, I cannot be able to carry on. These are my main in 2 words. So I have dedicated years, 30 years to this work, and while I value different opinions, I know the impact what I do. So I focus on the impact. I usually focus on the targets. And my work is grounded in field experience and collaboration with those most affected. I don't like to focus on people who are criticizing my
Of
work.
course.
I usually, I usually want to focus on the targets and on the impact that I can keep on my society.
Of course, and I can really feel that even through the screen as well. So thank you very much for your time. There are tons still of, well, I think a dozen of very interesting question. And Najet, I don't know if you would mind maybe sharing either contact detail, an email address, or if even through us, you know, we can get a list of these questions to kind of follow up as well. I feel like it would be very helpful to everyone here to get although I feel like in your responses, you've also responded to quite a lot of them in different ways as well. But thank you so much for your time, for your presentation, and your dedication in your work in general. We're 1 minute past, so very conscious that we need to close it off. I just wanted to thank you, obviously, the Hub, Elvana and Sultana for organizing this. Thank you very much, Najet, for your time. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending. I hope this was a very useful session. Everyone, please feel free to send an email to the Hub's admin, and we can collate, obviously, the list of questions, and maybe Najet, if you take a couple of minutes to answer them in your spare time, that would be much appreciated. Thank you very much.
With pleasure, of course. So I can share my email. I'm already in LinkedIn, so I will be very happy to answer to all your questions and even more if you want.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much for your time, everyone, and Najet. Have a very good day.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.